Hello everyone, in this video we will be discussing conditional statements in C++. We'll learn what conditional statements are, we'll see the different conditional statements present in C++, and then we'll also take a look at them in action in code. So, conditional statements are also known as decision-making statements because they help to take decisions in a program on the basis of logical conditions. The different conditional statements in C and C++ include if else, if else if, nested ifs, and switch case. Let's go over the syntax of each of these before moving on to the code. So this is the syntax of an if statement. If, condition, and then there's a block of code which follows. Now that block of code will only be executed if the condition within the brackets is true. Now if else statement. So here we have two blocks of code, block of code 1 and block of code 2. If the condition is satisfied, that is, if the condition returns the logical entity true, then only the block of code 1 is executed. If the condition is false, then only block of code 2 is executed. Moving on to if else if. Here, if condition 1 is executed, out of all the given blocks, only block 1 is executed. Similarly, if condition 2 is executed, only block of code 2 will be executed. If condition 1 and 2 fail, if condition 3 is true, then block of code 3 will be executed. If all of those conditions fail, then block of code 4 will be executed. Nested if statements are simple to understand. They are just if else if within other if else if blocks. Now, switch statement. In switch case, decisions are taken on the basis of an expression which is evaluated. And for each value that expression can lead to, we have different cases which we handle. So the result of the expression is used to execute a set of statements associated to that value. They are used in place of longer if statements if we are constantly making comparisons to integral values. So this would be the syntax: switch an expression within it. Then within the brackets, for each value the expression could take. In this case, if we have integer values, n could be 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So if n is 1, then case 1 will be executed, set of statements which are linked to the case if n equal to 1. And then when the break is encountered, we come out of the switch case block. Similarly, if n is 2, then only the block of statements for case 2 will be executed till we encounter the break keyword. And if none of the given cases are true, then the block of code in the default case will be executed. Now let's take a look at all of these in action in code. So in this program, we have two functions and also our main function. So let's go over the first function, which is void is even, which takes in a number as an integer as its input. So what is even does is it calculates the modulus of a number. That is, it checks if the number after being divided by 2 gives a remainder equal to 0. If a number is divisible by 2, then it is even. We print out the same. Else, if the number is false, we print out the number is odd. What we need to see in this case is whenever this condition is true, only this statement will be executed. If this condition is false, the else block will be executed. In case I did not have an else block, then what would happen is that the first comparison will be made to if. If the condition is true, then this block of code will be executed, after which it will come out of the if else block to carry on executing line number 8. But since we have if else, we have an if else block, and if we have some statement in line 10, what would happen is if the case is if the number is even, that is if number modulo 2 double equals 0, then this line number 6 will be executed, following which the controller would come out of the if else block entirely and continue executing line number 10. If the condition here is false, then the if block, the lines of code associated to the if condition, that is line number 6, will not be executed. Instead, the block of code which is associated to the else block, which is line number 8 in this case, will be executed. So if the condition is false, that is if the number is odd, this line of code will be executed, line number 8, following which it will come out of the if else construct to go on and execute line number 10 in case we had some. Now let's look at if else if block. So here we have a binary condition, which is if it is true, execute this, else execute this. What if we have more intricate logic? So in this function, we will try to decide the sign of a number. If the number is negative, if the number is positive, or if it is neutral, that is 0. So what we do is, initially we check if the number is less than 0. If the number is less than 0, that means the number is negative. We point out the same. If the number is not 0, what are the two cases which we could have? The number could be greater than 0 or the number could be less than 0. So if this condition fails, that is if number is less than 0 is false, then we come to the else if block, wherein we check again for the number to be greater than 0. If the number is greater than 0, then this condition, these lines of code, which is line 16, will be executed before the controller comes out of the if else block. Now, if number is not less than 0 and the number is not greater than 0, that means the number has to be equal to 0. So if both of these conditions fail, then the block of code in the else block is executed, in which case we print out that the number is 0. Moving on to switch case. So here what I'm trying to do in this main function is it's a menu driven program. A menu driven program is where you present a menu of choices to the user for him to make a certain choice and then carry on with the program. So here I will first ask him to enter the choice if he wants to check the number is even, if he wants to check the sign of the number, or does he want to exit out of the menu driven program. Based on the user's choice, I will make certain decisions. Now, if the user inputs 1, I would assume that he wants to check if the number is even. So, after inputting the choice into the variable, the switch will take in the expression wherein the expression is nothing but the choice variable here. Now, I have given the user to input 1 amongst 3 values. So if the case is 1, I ask him to input the number, and then I call the function which checks if the number is even or not, following which there is a break statement. When it comes to switch case, we have two new keywords being introduced: break and default. Break is used to come out of the switch case construct. Whenever this line is encountered for a given case, the execution of lines of code after this will not occur. So as soon as it encounters break, it comes out of the switch case construct and then it carries on with its work. Now, what happens if none of the cases match? What if the user has inputted a choice which is not amongst 1, 2, 3 or any of the cases which I have given? In such a case, the controller will come to the default block and execute whatever statements we have here. Maybe we could tell him that it is an illegal choice and so on. So that is the use of default and that is the use of break. Now, what happens if I don't have a break statement? Now, what happens if we don't have a break statement and the case is 1? What the controller will do is it'll check that the case is 1, it'll ask for the input, it'll take the input, it'll call the function, and then it'll continue on to the next case below it, in which it'll ask for the input again, it'll take the input, it'll calculate the sign of the number, and then when it encounters break, it'll come out. If we remove this break as well, it'll go on to continue to case 3 as well. Right. So now let's try and see the different choices we have, how the switch case works for the given input, and how the decision making is occurring. Here, the user is given the choice of checking if the number is even, checking if the number is checking the sign of the number, and to exit. So let's say I input a number which is none of these 3. So let's say I input 5. What happens is it breaks because the switch construct will try to see all of the cases, which is 1, 2, and 3. And since none of those match, it will come to the default case in which it encounters the break statement and it comes out of the switch case construct. Let's say I input 1. So what happens is choice was inputted 1, hence we do have a matching case for case 1, and then we ask the user for an input. Let's say I say 13. 13, the number is odd. What happens then? So the number inputted is 13. So the input to the function is 13. We get num equal to 13 in this case. Now, we come and we check here if the number, when divided by 2, leaves no remainder or leaves the remainder as 0. So 13 divisible by, 13 when divided by 2 gives a remainder of 1. So is 1 double equal to 2? No. So this condition fails. This returns a false value. This equates to a false Boolean value. So since the condition fails, the lines of code associated to the if block will not be executed. Hence, line 6 is skipped, and the lines of code which are associated to the else block, which is line 8, is executed, wherein we print that the number is odd. Now let's check to see the sign of a number. So again, we come here. We entered the choice 2. We do have a case matching for choice 2, in which we enter a number to see its sign. Let's say I have -5. -5 is negative. How does that happen? So I pass -5 into my function called sign of number. Now, first it'll come and it'll check here. Is number less than 0? True. What it does is it executes this statement and then comes out of the entire if else if block. Now, what if I try and input a number which is 0? 0 is 0, of course, but how it follows through will be, it'll first check for this condition. Is 0 less than 0? No, it's false. So for line number 14 will not be executed. Then it'll come to this condition and it'll check if number is greater than 0. Is 0 greater than 0? False. So the block of code associated to this if else block will not be executed as well. Since both the remaining conditions failed, we encounter an else block. Whatever is there in the else block will be executed, which is 0 is 0. So this was if else if, switch cases, and in general how conditional statements work in C++. Thank you.